an awful world, but not awful like you think.
This is the show where we discuss whether we would have discovered important advances in a world exclusively full of Haylies and Libbys. I'm Haylie.
And I'm Libby.
And today
we're talking about math. Yay! We love math and totally understand everything about it.
Yeah,
and so that's why we have not brought in any special guests. Just kidding. Yes, we did.
Yay!
Yes, we did.
Thank God, because I don't know math.
I sure as shit don't know math.
Yeah, I had to teach you division.
You did. That's a true story.
So today with us, we have our friend Kaitlyn, who's an actuary.
Hello.
Hi, Kaitlyn. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Of course.
Thank you for being our math expert.
Anything for you, honestly.
Appreciate
We
it.
crunched the numbers and decided we could fit you in today.
Oh, thank you so much.
That's the math that we did. No. Math. Ugh.
Yeah. Rough.
So, as I've said in previous episodes, as Haylie said in previous episodes, we are not STEM girlies. And I believe the M in STEM is mathematics.
It sure is. But I will let you guys know that I've listened to every episode that you've put out. And I think in almost every episode, you do mention the math. So
I know.
Because it's always our hold up.
It's a part of you. I do think it is.
I mean, it has to be,
It
right?
has to be.
As much as we don't want it to be, it has to be. Well, I'm so curious because Kaitlyn just said that she has listened to every single episode. So I'm curious, who do you think were the most like mathematical people of history? Like, we're like, yeah, I kind of started with them. Do you have any ideas just based on your listening of other episodes?
I feel like it always boils down to the Egyptians.
The
if I'm
Egyptians is
gonna
a
be
good
honest.
guess.
It's an excellent guess.
In this case, it's the Babylonians.
Okay.
Because the Babylonians were the astronomers.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you know this, but they're like, astronomy has a lot to do with math. Ugh.
Unfortunately.
Yeah. And like understanding like how the world itself works. So apparently they are the ones that came up with a number system. Do you know how many numbers they came up with, Haylie?
60.
60.
Knew it.
Oh
Yes.
my gosh. It's always 60.
So,
It's
and
always
I wrote
12.
it parentheses,
Because they do
everything's
the time.
coming together. Yes. So they were the first ones to do, okay, they developed 0 to 60. Actually, I don't know if it's 0 to 60. Well, I'll get back to that in a second.
All right.
And I was like, oh, everything comes together because of course. So the reason, I know that we've talked about this before, about, you know, why with the 12s, 12 inches, 12 hours, 12, you know, whatever. So this actually makes sense to me because a lot of people are like, what the fuck? Why wouldn't you come up with, like, why wouldn't you use 100? Like something that's just nice and easy to work with.
Is it the angles?
No. Well, a little bit. Yes. But a hypothesis that we have, obviously we can't like bebop in time and ask the Babylonians what they're thinking. But the hypothesis is that because that's a number that's divisible by so many small integers. So 60 is divisible by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 10. That's nuts.
That is nuts.
Where you think about like 100, like, I don't know if I'm right about this, but it feels like 100 is only divisible by like 2 or 4.
5.
Yeah, and 5. I said that.
1.
I mean, yeah, it is divisible by 1.
And 10.
And 10, that's true.
Yeah.
But when you break it down smaller, the number 10 is only divisible.
And I do feel like it has to do like with angles and stuff. Like, do you guys remember, maybe not, like the unit circle and how it would like, it has the circle and all of the different like sections of it and how they like.
No.
She's
Okay. Well, you know, like the
I do
circle
not.
360
Yes.
and like all of that. Like it all comes together.
See,
I feel like.
that's why I thought that it was the angles, because when we did time, they used, it's like 360 is the earth, you know,
Right,
and then if you're using the sky, you would have to be using angles to get your time that way. So I'm just like, that's got to be 60.
Which is true. That is, and the Babylonians
Still
are the
don't
ones
agree.
that came up with that and said a circle is 360 and we can split that, you know, into 90s and 45s and whatever. It all works, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I just thought that was interesting. I was like, okay, that's like the factor of 12 makes sense because so much there are so many small numbers that can be easily, 12 can be divided easily with the whole 60s and 12s and whatever. So that's sort of where that business came from. But then the Greeks inherited that system of 60 numbers, and they started to slowly tweak it over time. And then we at least know that the Sumerians, which I think is like the Middle East somewhere, like modern day where Sumeria would have been, they had actually, and this really triggered me when I read it, they had clay tablets that they had actually done multiplication tables on.
Yeah, I remember
Nothing takes me back to elementary school faster than having to do a timed table
What
test.
about board races? Did you ever do board races?
Oh, the board races.
Yes, and I hated that shit.
You hated them.
Yes.
Hated it. I am not good at multiplication. I'll tell you what I am good at.
Yeah.
Algebra. I'm actually pretty good at algebra. Like balancing equations makes sense to me.
Let me tell you, all math is algebra. Algebra is the most important part of math.
I don't know. I don't understand calculus though.
You don't need to know.
Took calculus.
Unless you would like to, measure the volume of an object mathematically with an equation. You don't need to calculus. You're good. You're good.
Yeah.
Just fill it. Just fill the volume.
Yeah. So apparently there's like a really famous tablet. I've never heard of this because I don't know anything about math. It's called the Plimpton 322 tablet.
I did see that.
Yes.
Wow. Yes.
And that apparently gives us evidence that they knew about and understood the right angle, which is nuts to me. So like they probably knew about triangles before Pythagoras did.
I mean, all that building and stuff too. I mean, they would have had to, right?
So they did, because I have written down that Pythagoras created, obviously, the Pythagorean theorem, but really he just took credit for it because
white men,
who would have guessed it? The Babylonians were using it more than 1,000 years prior.
Yeah.
And he just took the credit.
Yeah.
He just
typical
made it famous.
White man.
Put his name on that.
Yeah. So we also have evidence that the Egyptians knew too because of the pyramids.
Right. I believe that.
This fucking blew my mind. The pyramids, every single one of them has a perfect ratio of 1 to 1.618.
You know that's called the golden ratio.
Yes, I did. And also, you're going to look at me and you're going to tell me that aliens didn't help them with this? I mean, are you kidding?
Almost everything, well, maybe not everything, but there is a lot of nature that mimics the golden ratio. Like
really?
That ratio. Do you know how that ratio is derived?
The Nautilus shell.
The Nautilus shell, yes.
I'm sorry, what? I mean, I know, but I want the listeners to know.
Oh.
I'm just kidding.
Sure.
Okay, have you heard of the Fibonacci sequence?
Now you lost me. I was so here with the ratio and the shell.
Okay. I'm just going to
step
stop.
out.
So there's the Fibonacci sequence, which again, I think it was like actually either invented or discovered. There's also, this debate about was math invented or discovered. But so whatever, camp you're in with that was either invented or discovered by an Indian man. But then, Fibonacci, another, white, probably European dude, put his name on that, whatever.
Typical.
But so the Fibonacci sequence is a sequence where if you have two numbers, the previous two numbers add up to the next following number. So it's 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, and 8. Like they all the previous two numbers adds up to the next number.
Interesting.
So you just keep adding those up. So the longer you go out with that, if you divide those by each other, you get this 1.618 or whatever. It's like an irrational number, like pi, it just keeps going out. And that golden ratio appears in a lot of nature. Like if you plot out the Fibonacci sequence, it kind of curves around itself like a nautilus shell. I think there's something about I don't know. In college, I took this honors course on all of these crazy math concepts, and none of it is practical.
You're so
I never
cool.
used this ever, but it's just oh, that's cool.
It's
because
interesting.
I'm a nerd and I'm I love it. Something about the way that sunflower seeds are arranged too, in the whatever you call it in the center. If you were to look at them, the way that honeybees, their lineage comes down. There's always the females always have part of the queen, but the males don't. I don't know.
Typical.
If you look it up, there's a lot of nature that mimics that. So that's one of the arguments of how math was discovered and not invented. It's all just basically explaining what's already here in the world.
What camp do you fall in?
I don't know.
I fall into a clear camp, so I'm just curious.
Oh, okay. Should I go first? Okay. I feel I'm probably camp discovery. In my opinion, most of mathematics just boils down to being able to figure out problems. So I think that you don't have to have any like particular knowledge to understand math. You just have to be able to like figure out things that seem complicated. And I feel like that's like what math was meant to do, right? It was meant to say, this is something I've observed and I want to like precisely write it down and to be able to recreate it. And so all of these math equations, all of these things are really just to explain things that they've observed or that are already happening, like space and all that. Like, you know, you just kind of like boil it down to, oh, if you just use this equation, you'll get this result. But I don't know. What do you think? I'm curious to see what you think.
I'm Camp Discovery 100%. And the reason for that is because I mean, there's no way that we could like make that work. You know what I mean?
Right.
There's no way that we're like, yeah, we came up with this. And I mean, obviously we came up with a system of numbers. And I think, you know, we can start off with our fingers and toes and say like, or just anything, you know, I have one of this thing. And if I grab another one of this thing, then I have two of these things. And we're just assigning names to it, right? Obviously, we did that. We created that. But the way it works out in nature, that we can't create that. We just figured out how
it's like you're assigning
works.
It.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, but like what you call it,
right?
It's whatever.
Yeah,
but
that's just semantics.
You're just kind of like assigning something to it.
Yes.
Yeah.
But like to make it all work out like that, no, we didn't create that.
Yeah.
I don't think. I think we just figured it out.
Yeah. I like to think that it's a little bit of both.
Okay.
If I'm being honest, because it's one of those things where it's like, we made up the numbers. They were already there, but like, yeah, we assigned the names to them. So we kind of just made that up. But then like, who was like, I'm calling this division. I'm calling this pi. And I'm like, that stuff is all just like made up. And it's like, yes, you use it and it's discovered, but it's like, you have to make up certain concepts and then you see how they all interplay together and then like rework from there, kind of a thing. So I think it's like kind of somewhere in between. But
yes,
I just kind of think that like in an awful world, how far could we get?
Well, so my only counter to that would be that like, if I'm just thinking just with what I know, like even I think in an awful world, it's going to start out with like fruit, let's say.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I have 3 apples. Well, like, okay, I'm calling that 3 apples, right? But now if I suddenly have 9 apples, I know that I can divide that into 3 groups of 3.
Right.
So I know that like 9 is divisible by 3. You know what I mean?
Right.
I'm just like discovering that just by looking at it. I'm not making that up, right? And that's division.
Right.
You know what I mean?
But it's like, it's once you get into the like, oh, but it's 3 point.
Right. No,
you know,
that
pi, you know, whatever. Then I'm like, I mean, yes, that had to come from somewhere, but also like seems like somebody.
I mean, look, in an awful world, there are no decimals. There, I mean,
I like that. Everything's just like a round number.
Yeah, it has to be.
I'm on board with that.
Although I do really understand
I
like quarters and halves a lot.
Yeah.
So here's my opinion about you guys in an awful world and coming up with mathematics.
Let's hear it.
I think, so in my mind, it's like kind of 2 realms, right? You have like simple mathematics, like you have arithmetic, you have algebra. I would even consider that simple mathematics.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then you have like, you know, more of kind of the outlandish stuff, you know, calculus, things, you know, that, I don't know.
Physics.
You don't need to know. I mean, but your guys' hobbies and like the things you do, bake, you sew, all of this uses math. You know, you build things, you measure things, all of this uses math. So I am so confident that you guys would come up with that. You know, you would come up with a recipe or something, and then you would want to tell me about it. And so then you'd have to like measure, oh, well, I don't have, you know, a whole cup. I only have these 2 little things. Okay, well, how many of these do I need to make, you know, however much you put in?
Yeah.
And I am so confident that you guys would come up with that. And so, I don't know, you guys are always like, oh, I don't understand math. I don't understand the mathematics. And I'm like, no, you do. I feel like all of your hobbies, like you use math all the time.
For sure. I just don't think we would get to the point of like coming up with those complicated concepts.
Oh, but you don't need that.
No,
yeah,
you don't.
Nobody really needs that. Like,
but it does like inform our understanding of like the world, which is what's crazy. Like, which honestly, we're never going to be astronomers. Like that's just never.
No,
it's just not going to happen.
Time and time again.
It's just not going to happen. And I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
Of like not understanding exactly what all of this is and why it all what it all means.
Yes.
I agree that in a more practical sense, yeah, I understand mathematics and I can use it.
And we would have basic mathematics.
Basic math.
Yeah.
Basic math.
The one time when I went to Ibiza. Yeah, so I just, but that, like, the pyramids, what? Like, we're not getting there, okay? We would be aliens if we could figure that out in an awful world.
I don't know. I think that we could. I don't think we could make them that big.
That perfect ratio, though.
But yeah, they would not be perfect. They would not be beautiful.
No.
They would not be that large.
Anything you make is perfect and beautiful. He would make it perfect and beautiful.
Hype woman.
My favorite thing to do after I make something is say, well, and then I messed up right here. And everyone's like, why tell me? I'm like, because I know. So now you
But
need
that's
to know.
the thing. And so that drive would like lead you over generations. The Haylies would create perfect objects.
I don't think so. I don't think we could. I think that like we could use basic math for things, but I don't think we could use it to do like planes.
Oh,
space.
God, no.
Yeah, I don't know how things fly.
No.
Yeah.
No.
The
We're not figuring that out.
submarines.
Oh, what about a question for
She's
you
already
guys? It's a
laughing
little
when
bit
she
out of
tells
left
me what
field.
the answer is.
I know. So I'm only supposed to talk about mathematics, but I'm wondering. So I am an actuary and I work in insurance. And so a lot of that is like statistics and like predicting
Risk.
things. And yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Do you guys think you would have insurance or any kind of like statistical mathematics in an awful world?
So this is interesting, actually, because probability, the study of probability, especially, it did not come around until like much later than you think. Like the age of reason. So the 17th century is when we start talking about probability. That's the 1600s. What? Like, I feel like the most basic thing I could figure out with probability is like a dice, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, you
Or like
shake
a
'em.
coin flip.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, yeah.
And the number of times, like it's 50-50 because there's two sides. Like, do I think I could get there? Yes.
Yes.
Now, I think insurance is a concept that I think that we'd come up with.
I do too, but I don't know that we'd be doing the math.
I don't think so either.
Okay.
I don't think we're assessing the
How
risk
would you assess it?
of
then?
it
Like,
insuring people. I think that we're just nice. We'll be like, yeah, we'll insure you.
you just kind of like make up a value and
Yeah.
assign it to it.
Yeah.
You're like, that sounds right. That feels right in my
Yeah.
soul.
Feels good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which is probably why our insurance system would collapse because we're
Probably.
not assessing any risk. And so we're just like, everybody's going to share the
I want you
cost
guys to
of
write me a
this.
policy. Yeah.
Or
Do
we'd
you
be like,
feel
there's
like I'm worth a couple $1 million?
Yes, of course.
absolutely you are. We'd have like a basic interview process to
Of
get to know a little
course.
bit about you.
Are you nice? Like,
Yeah.
Are you fun?
Yeah.
You know, how often do you speed? You know, things like that. But then we'd be like, all right, it just seems likely or unlikely.
We're going
that,
off of strictly
you know,
vibes.
Yes.
We're just like, yeah, it
I
feels
feel
pretty
like
good
that's
chance.
kind of like probability though in your
Yeah.
own world, right? Like you're
Yeah.
taking inputs, you're making, like you're assessing, you're making choices and decisions, and then you're deciding, okay, am I going to like insure that person or not? So
Yeah.
I feel like that's
yeah,
an awful probability.
Yeah.
probably.
Which I never took that class.
Oh my God. I took
Yeah.
statistics, AP statistics, my senior year of
Wow,
high school.
you were so advanced.
I was not advanced because that class was so hard. And then I took it freshman year of college. I'm like, I have to take a math class. I might as well just
Take the
take
one you already
something
took.
that's
Yeah.
fresh in the brain. Not easy. Not at all. And actually, I randomly chose a partner in that class that actually ended up being a friend in law school, Grace.
Oh.
Just we
Yeah.
and we
Aw.
did
Well, that's why that class, you were meant to take that class.
right.
You know?
But
It
then
had
we
nothing
both
to do
ended
with
up being
that.
lawyers because we were both so scarred by it. Which is why I always tell people, they're like, why'd you go to law school? And I was like, so I'd never have to do math ever again. And then we decided to like go into tax, which is just
Oh.
stupid
A mistake.
decision.
Oh.
But yeah,
That's not true. But
no, it's not a mistake, but it's a little more mathy than I'd like. I do have a little calculator on my desk, and I don't like that. And I use it a lot. Hey, listener, if you're in the Indianapolis area looking for warm photos of you and your loved ones, you're going to want to check out Hey Blondie. Hey Blondie is committed to capturing people from all walks of life through all stages of life, from a new baby to graduation. Check out heyblondiephoto.com for more information and give them a like on Facebook and Instagram at Hey Blondie Photo. I have some interesting little like tidbits for you that I think this is going to blow your mind. And this is like, we would never get to this in an awful world because I'm just like, excuse me. But we have a lot of famous text messages between, no, I'm kidding. Would that be funny? Like Buddha was like, what if?
Ayo, what about
No, but we have a lot of like very basic texts that show us that we understood or that people understood basic arithmetic by like the 4th century. So like they're with it, they're getting it, at least the 4th century. So we also have in some like religious texts, particularly like in Buddhism, like Buddha contemplated at some point how many atoms were in the universe using
math. How do you
math.
even like begin to like quantify that?
Right. That's a thought that's never going to occur to me.
No.
I'm sure we have an answer for that now. Maybe.
I don't know. See, that's a thought that
Google
like,
machine, will tell
A,
you.
I would never think of. And B, if someone asked me, I would be like, why do you care?
Yeah, truly.
Right.
The end.
We're not like investigative enough about those types of, like, we're curious about certain things, but like, I don't know if like as a whole we would be like, let's figure out how this works, like the universe.
So
No.
that's funny though, because a very common like interview question that we'll ask, like if we're interviewing people to like be an actuary, is to estimate the number of barbers in Chicago. And the idea is that you just give someone like, estimate something and you want to see how they'll think through it.
Interesting.
Because a lot of times, sometimes you get people like the Haylies of the world that say, well, why do you care? Like, like, it does not matter to me. And when you're, interviewing for that, it's like,
don't say that.
Nope,
Yeah, you don't say that. No.
But it's more about looking at
people do, right?
the process.
Right. Like, how would you think about it? Okay. So,
there are this
Chicago,
many people in
Chicago probably has this many people
Yeah.
out of every 10 people or 100 people, maybe one's a barber, and then you just kind of like keep like going from there.
Yeah.
Buddha was on it. He was totally on it. He was just thinking about that way back.
Yeah. It just blows my mind though. Like the fact that Buddha or like in the 4th century that we even had any kind of concept of atoms in the universe.
Yeah. And I'm not going to lie, I did not know he was that old.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I did not know that.
Soup's old.
Super old.
Soup's old.
Yeah. So earlier I said that they came up with a system of 0 to 60. And I lied because 0 was not invented until the 7th century, which I just I guess we just really didn't think about the concept of like nothing.
Yeah, they probably were just like, it's nothing.
It's nothing, right? This minus 0 is still the same thing. It was invented by a guy named Brahmagupta.
All right.
And he also developed negative numbers and
next level
and all of that. Yeah, which like. Negative numbers. What a concept.
See, now negative numbers, that feels made up.
It does feel made up because how can you have negative something?
Exactly.
Yeah.
You owe someone something, you have a debt to pay.
Oh, God.
I have 5 apples.
I was like, damn.
And Haylie takes all of them. And so, now I have negative 5 apples because she's going to give them back someday. But
interesting. I guess I never thought about it like that.
I was like, no, you have 0
how does
apples.
That like, yeah, you have 0 apples. How does that apply practically? I'll tell you what really messed me up in college is I took accounting 1 and 2 in college.
Oh, let's
Big
not
mistake.
talk about accounting.
Huge. Debits and credits.
Yeah.
It's the opposite of what you think. Like
yes.
on a sheet. Like it's not like I just can't. I feel like I still have nightmares of like trying to figure this stuff out.
Yeah.
So Kaitlyn and I took an accounting class together.
And you're still friends. That's good. That's good.
And it was really, really rough. Actually, the professor was the literal worst.
I really do think it was a her problem and not an us problem.
Yeah.
I really do.
And the professor, do you remember in class one time when we had an exam and then they were like, oh, well, if you have questions, I can come explain, not give you the answer, but explain it to you. And some kid did that and then they marked it wrong, even though they got it right.
You were just telling me about this.
Yes, because they were like, well, you had to ask me.
What?
And so the kid got up and stormed out of the class.
I 100% believe you.
And I know, Kaitlyn has the worst memory.
So Haylie often tells me stories about my own life. And I'm like, that sounds right.
But they got up and stormed out of the class because they got it wrong, even though they actually had gotten the correct answer, but the professor had marked it wrong because of that. And then the professor, because they had asked, so they were like, well, you don't get credit for it. But then the professor told us that our class was the reason that they hated teaching.
Wow, that's really...
Was it a guy?
Yeah.
Okay. I think I said she earlier. Now I'm thinking about it and I'm like, no, I do remember this. Okay. Yeah.
And it was the worst class I've ever taken in my entire life.
Honestly, like I feel like I am fairly gifted in mathematics. Like I feel like I'm pretty good at that stuff, right?
So.
And oh my gosh, I took so many like crazy math classes. I think I got a C in that class. Like I did not.
Yeah, you got either like a B minus or a C
out there because I don't get it to this day.
Yeah.
I don't get it either.
Yeah.
And honestly, for me, it's like with accounting, there's too many variables. Like you think about like accounting for like a big company. There's too many variables.
Oh, yeah,
I don't know.
None of that's right anywhere in corporate America, right? I mean,
yeah.
Like it's not possible.
It's just so rough. I know accounting is necessary and all math is necessary, but also I'm just like, I could live without it. I think I could live a happy life without it.
I don't know. You
not all math.
Yeah.
Like I would again, basic math. I've got to have. I've got to have basic math. But like, I could live a fairly happy life without accounting.
Oh yeah,
I think I could.
I don't think you need it either. Like in an awful world, I don't think we need it.
No.
I mean, are we going to be writing down like, okay, if we have like
do like shopping.
Little stores,
True.
yeah, we're keeping track of that. I think. But
maybe the glitter on our money will just like make it easier to like swallow the pill of having to do accounting.
Yeah,
you know?
maybe.
You have to like use math to figure out, are you going to have sales, you know?
That's
like,
true. And like how much are we going to benefit? What's our profit
Yeah.
margin? What are our KPIs? What are various other buzzwords?
Right.
I'm like, this is becoming unsettling.
ROI,
I know.
ROE.
We're
Yes,
not
of course.
at work.
Diminishing returns, all sorts of things.
Sinking funds.
Yeah. Oh my God. I talk about sunk cost all the time.
Ugh.
Mostly with employing people. I'm like, don't you forget, you bitch. You sunk a cost into that person.
This is a you problem.
Yeah, this is a you problem.
Yeah.
There is sunk cost in what you taught that person. So don't you be treating them like that,
Exactly.
okay?
Oh my gosh.
Anyway, so the printing press. I talked about the printing press
Johann Gutenberg.
so much. I know. Gutenberg, really, like, we need to shout out Gutenberg. Love you. Thanks so much for all your contributions.
Like a podcast trip to the musical.
Yeah. So anyway, I've talked about the printing press like a lot of late. So it changed so much for so many different reasons, but especially in the form of math, because now we can start teaching people basic math, like, because we can start making like books about math and how to do math and all of that. Whereas before it's just like, well,
Describing it in the clay.
yeah, if you know a
On the
person that
tablets.
knows it and can like, then they can show you. But that's basically, we can't make, I mean, we'd have to hand make copies of this to like distribute it, you know, so that really changes things. But did you know that we were still using Roman numerals until like the 18th century?
Oh, dang.
Roman
No.
numerals.
That's
there is
rough.
also no
What
zero
changed it?
in Roman numerals, the age of reason.
Okay.
So that's when we like kind of start. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. I wrote it down wrong. 13th century is when we stopped using Roman numerals. I don't know what changed it. That's a good question. Other than we're finally splitting away from that like influence on math from that part of the world. There is no zero in Roman numerals. So I'm guessing that has something to do with like zero being invented and then us like trying to figure out like, okay, well, we need to like not use these numerals anymore because
Yeah.
I wonder if like fractions and stuff are hard. Like, I don't like, do they do like any kind of fractions of
I don't know
numbers
that
in
they
Roman numerals?
do.
I honestly don't.
Can you
Do they?
imagine what a fraction would look like? Like
Too
one
many
quarter,
lines. Too many
like
lines
just
going on.
I over IV. Like I just,
Yeah.
no, thank you. It's just too much for me. And here's what's frustrating about Roman numerals is it's being math within math.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
V is 5 and, you know, I is 1. So
What is it before
V,
or after?
I is
Yes.
8. And yeah. But if it's 10, then it's X. So like IX is 9 because that's 1 less than 10. And it's a lot for me. It's a lot.
Did you know that like in French, I don't know about Spanish because I've only taken French, but like your higher up numbers are like the same kind of thing? Like it would be like,
oh, it's not like that in Spanish.
it would be like, I'm trying to think, but it would be like 240, 6, and that would be like 86.
I don't understand what you're saying.
Because it would be like 2 40s.
Oh,
6. Or, like something like that. Or like
so
2 20s.
Did they
you know,
stop at like 50 and then like everything is just like.
I can't remember because it's been so long since I had to like do
masochist.
The numbers for French, but I remember having to be like, this is
beautiful when
math
you say it,
inside of math, and it's exhausting. Like numbers become so long then.
They do.
It's like, ugh, I don't want to do that.
I like how English was like 8, 80, 87. Great.
Yes.
Like perfect.
Yeah.
80. It's like, it's 80.
Yeah.
It's 70.
Yeah. Like just put a Y or a TY on the end of it. And you're just like,
it's perfect. Yeah.
We don't need to like add before we get there.
No, let's not put math inside of our language.
No.
I don't want that.
Horrible.
I don't want, stop trying to shove it down my throat.
Right. No more than the basics.
Yes.
Like even when I do have to do math for my hobbies. So like if I'm measuring something and it is like, let's say into the 16ths of something, I'll be like, it is 1 1/2 plus 3 ticks. Because I'm not gonna, so I have like my own little version of math.
Do you ever measure things around your house with like your forearm or something?
That's what we call girl measuring. Yeah, that's girl math.
Yeah. You just
you're like, no, it's the length of my forearm. It'll fit.
Yeah,
honey, this is not right. It's 10 of my left pinkies.
It's I measured it out precisely.
And you're like, all right, our bed is 2 of me, so this will fit on the end because it's half of me.
Right. I'll tell you what drives me crazy though is when people don't reduce fractions. Nothing makes me angrier than so recently I was doing a women build for Habitat for Humanity, and I was cutting things with a saw, which is great. Other people were bringing me the measurements. I don't want to see you write down 20 4/16. That's a quarter.
They weren't doing the math either. They said 3 ticks and that's it.
That's right.
And that bothers me because I'm like, because my brain is like, what?
It's not done. It's
4/16. Reduce, and reuse and recycle.
Love it.
Like, please help me.
Yeah.
I hate that.
You.
I hate that. But like, that just makes sense. You know what I mean?
It does. But also it's because it's like, you're already doing the math. Why make me now do the math? Why did you only have to do the math? You know?
Yeah, no, for sure. I'm just saying, I think in an awful world, we'd come up with fractions.
Yeah.
I feel good about that because we would, like 16, for example, I have 16 oranges and I can separate them into 4 groups of 4. And so one of these is 1/4. 1 of 4, a quarter.
Don't you think though that like, I think this at least, if I was the one who's discovering this math, don't you think it would just kind of make you like cranky while you're doing it?
I think it would make me feel nuts. That that picture of Charlie from It's Always Sunny, like in front of the board with all the Pepe, Sylvia. That's how I think I would be with math.
Oh,
actually, that's how I am with math.
Yeah,
like just like even at work, like sometimes I have to like dig into things a little bit to see where people got a number from, and I feel like it's just like mad scribblings, just like on my notepad. Like,
don't you feel so successful when you figure it out?
Yeah,
doesn't that bring you like a dopamine hit? Right?
Yeah, but also sometimes I like do the math and then I redo the math and then it's wrong. It's different, and then I'm like, which one is wrong? Because I felt like I did them the same.
So then you have to do it for a third time, and then you get a third result. And
it's like when you take a math exam and like you get an answer and none of them are options.
Yes, and you're like, which one is the closest?
Okay,
that is a terrible feeling when you're like, fuck, I'm gonna have to do this again. I'm gonna have to figure it out. I don't have time. I'm running out of time. Oh my god, we have to get to the reading portion.
Move on.
Yes.
Yeah, actually, that is. Did they tell you that in college in your classes?
I don't. Yeah, I felt like that was common knowledge.
Oh, okay. Because we had a professor in law school.
Oh, that specifically told you that?
Yes.
About one specific.
So that makes me feel good about my life.
About one specific topic. She was like, "Do not waste your time trying to figure this out. Just pick C and move on."
I feel terrible because she said it about this because she was like, literally, no one understands it. And I can explain it to you day in and day out, but we'll literally never get anywhere past it. So just pick C. She's like, it will never be an essay question because it's so difficult. They're just going to make it multiple choice if they even ask you at all. And we're all like, okay. Now we have a friend who took the bar and it was a multiple choice question, but it was also 2 essay questions. And she was like, I don't know how to.
Oh my
yes,
gosh.
Alex.
Oh my
and she was like, I don't know how to do it.
No, nobody does.
She was like, why would they make it 2 questions?
I can't even think of the name of the topic right now.
I feel like that's rude to make 2 of the questions about the same topic anyways, because
Yes.
like if you don't know it, then you're kind of screwed, right?
Yeah.
Like that feels rude and mean to me.
But they love to do that.
Yeah.
They
Oh,
love
absolutely.
to do
Stupid
that.
attorneys.
Law is all about
Yeah.
being mean.
Exactly, 100%.
I feel like any profession that you have to like take exams for to like get to anywhere, it's just a bunch of disgruntled like people who have already taken exams in the past and they just want to make it as hard as possible.
Yes, they're like,
because
well,
they're
I was miserable, so you should be miserable.
Yes.
And
it's
I'm
a
like,
vicious cycle.
No. like we should get rid of all of that. I don't know why we're still doing it. Because especially so as an actuary,
Oh,
I
yes.
know that you have taken several exams.
Quite a few.
Now, why is that? Because does the math change?
So, and to be quite honest with you too, my boss, if you're listening, close your ears. You don't use any of it. You know, you use the Google machine and you look it up if you don't know something. And I feel like it all, in my personal, non-affiliated with anybody else's opinion, believe that really they're just to prove that like you understand mathematics like at its core, like you can figure things out, you are able to comprehend and understand things, and to that you're going to be like committed to getting through it, so they can weed out people who are like, oh, I give up, you know, and then just like don't get their credentials. I truly believe that's kind of like what all exams for professions are.
Yeah, 100%.
Absolutely, and
and that's like an annual thing where like there is law changing, like there is something changing where you actually do need to like know it and learn it and understand it.
Which
other than that,
math never changes.
I don't know.
That's my thing though, because I was like, you have taken what feels like 100 exams. I know it's not that many, but it
is a lot.
It's been a lot.
Yes.
And I'm just like, but if the math isn't changing, why are you still taking these? It's like,
and I mean, as far as like the math changing, actually it has a little bit just with like predictive analytics and like all that coming in. Like I took my exams at a time where like people a couple years ahead of me did not have to take some of the exams that I took because of like predictive analytics. And
I'm always saying that, you know, like predictive analytics are huge.
Yes. A GLM, a generalized linear model.
Course.
You're always plugging stuff into there. And you are, Libby, I know.
Get it.
But I mean, pretty much no. Like that one I understand. And I was like, okay, fine. I'll take this. Like this makes sense. But everything else. And it's all like so the earlier exams are all very like formula based too. And so it's like, if you just know the formulas, you can pass it, which was my issue because as we've discussed, I have a horrible memory. So it's very hard for me to cram a lot of just like rote memorization in there.
Yeah.
You know?
Which is crazy because in like practicality, you'll have the equation in front of you.
Right. Yes. And it's more about just kind of like understanding, okay, these are the inputs I would need to put in.
Yes.
Right. These are the ways I need them to kind of interact. And then it'll give me this sort of output.
Yeah.
So, which I guess is kind of like math in general, right?
Yeah.
Like it's just, it's more about like, I feel like people that are good at math are just really good problem solvers.
Yeah. Which the more that we talk about this, I'm like a little more confident about us in an awful world.
Yes.
Because we are both attorneys. We took the LSAT. And the LSAT.
You guys are problem solvers. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it really, the LSAT and law school, frankly, are just 2 things that teach you a certain way to think and like get through an issue. The problem and like where it comes down to like the difference between math and law is that law is very mishy-mashy. Like it's gray. It's,
favorite phrase. It depends.
It depends.
It depends.
Math
there is no it depends
with black
math.
and white. It's this.
Right. Which is what I like about it.
Yeah. It's finite, right? Like it's like, it is this and that's the answer.
Yes.
Period. Whereas for us, it's like, well, you know, it
notwithstanding.
Could be. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Insert random legalese. And your pretty answer that says, I don't know. It depends on these things.
Yes.
And even then, you know, we have all these facts and it's still like things are so fact sensitive in the law. And that's like, it's not math. Like, it's just like, if you input 4 here, it's this. And if you input 6 where you just had 4, then it's this. And that's it. Like, so that is kind of, I mean, that's nice. But we do know like how to critically think.
That's true.
And I think we're both, I mean, we have to be good at that because not only, I mean, you have to do that to like, get into law school and all of that, but like our job requires us to basically solve giant puzzles.
That's true.
And to like critically think through them.
That's true.
And that's really all like mathematics is too, just with numbers. Like instead of like theoretical, it's just quantitative numbers.
Yeah.
But like you have to figure out, how do I make this work?
Yeah.
I think I really do.
I don't know. I'm not as confident, but I'm feeling more confident than than before we
I
had
want to
this
hear you guys
conversation.
bad mouthing math in any future episode.
It's
Don't
not,
talk down about yourselves like
it's
that.
not math's fault. It's like Isaac Newton's fault. And
he's to blame for a lot. I feel
yes.
like.
And Brian wanted me to
That's
say,
true.
like, he was like, don't forget to mention that Isaac Newton was a virgin. Like, he was like, he
It
was
all
a
comes at a
virgin
price.
loser. And I was like, damn. Yeah. Like, okay, interesting. So he was like, literally, I'm walking out of the door today and he's like, don't forget Isaac Newton, virgin.
Yeah.
Got
I'll
it,
make
babe.
us shirts that say that. Yeah. For the next time.
Yes.
So like, you be spending a little bit too much time, Isaac, working on those things. Maybe you should get out, talk to some ladies, meet some people. Or men, I don't care. Do whatever you want. Whatever makes you happy.
Someone. Yeah.
I don't care.
Math just can't be everything.
No, it can't be.
Can't be everything.
It's in everything. And
It really is though.
Yeah, I
regret
know.
that
Almost
a little
every
bit.
aspect of life.
Yeah. I
know.
mean, even like, just like,
Awful.
thank God I learned the skill, like, of calculating percentages, like, off the top of my head, because the amount of panic I used to feel, like, going to a restaurant, being like, oh my God, what's 20%? Especially, like, when you have to go, like, pay up front, like, and they're like, do you want to add a tip? And you're like, oh my God. And so, like, when someone taught me, like, here's how you calculate 20%, I was like,
Yeah.
I still
That
have to
one's
use a
easy.
calculator.
Oh,
Oops.
really?
you know the
Yes.
trick, though.
Yeah.
I know,
You
but then I
know.
just like panic in the moment.
Don't
It's like how I
panic.
can't remember my left from my right. I just like panic. And then I'm like,
Yeah.
everything just like empties out of my brain. So
Yeah.
I'm just like, a calculator will help. And you know what's crazy? So like when we were all younger, I don't know if your parents ever said this, but mine was always like, you can't carry a
Yes.
calculator around with you everywhere. And I'm like,
Yes.
first of all, who says? I'm sorry, first of all, it's on my phone right now. But even if it wasn't, why couldn't I carry a calculator in my purse?
Yeah,
Who was
right.
going to stop me? The police?
Yeah.
No.
The little, like, Casio one that I have, I could fit that in my pocket.
Yes.
I'm not trying to get, like, a TI-89 in my pocket because I'm not
No.
looking to graph,
Okay.
you know?
Those things are expensive.
Oh my
They
God,
are.
tell me about it. And then, like, sophomore year of high school, they're like, you need the TI-89 and the updated version. Okay.
And I'm like, do I though?
like, that's a $180 calculator.
Yeah, no,
Which,
thank you.
if I do the math, is $180 more than I have to spend on calculators.
True. The
So-
calculator budget. Yeah. Very
Yeah.
minimal. I get that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't even get me started on budgeting. Yikes.
Oh, see?
Yikes.
You're going to need that.
I know.
I know you guys love to shop.
No.
I know, but I'm so disconnected from my money that, like, I don't want
Okay.
it sometimes.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
get that.
You
Sometimes
know?
it's just like, I know it's there
Yeah.
and I have it to spend. And that's about all I need to know. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm going to the store, going
Yeah.
to the Target.
Support that.
I'm
Target.
going to the Target.
Target will tell me what's in my budget
Yeah.
and what I need.
There
That's
will be
right.
Target in an awful world. That's for
Yes.
sure.
Ooh. Okay.
100%.
I'm on board. I'll come.
Right.
Fine. You've convinced me. Who needs math if we have Target?
That's right.
Nobody.
Exactly. No one.
So, do you have anything else? I know Haylie wrote like a whopping 3 bullet points on the topic of mathematics.
Yeah, I'm sure it's very
'cause
interesting.
I got very overwhelmed very fast and then was like, Kaitlyn knows math. She'll tell me. I don't know.
Even trying to read like the history of math, I was like, oh my God. Because I'm sure now I've forgotten again what that guy's name is that came up with not really, see?
Oh, the Fibonacci sequence.
Yes, I'm like,
Sorry,
it's the
I was
thing
blanking. I'm like, I
with
don't
the
know what you're
thing
saying.
and the 2 numbers before the thing.
That's right.
Yeah, the
Oh, yeah, that,
Fibonacci
yes.
sequence.
Fibonacci.
I know that came up in my research, but I was like, I don't know what you're saying. And then I just like gave up on reading about it. And I just like moved on.
I know.
And even when you were talking about it, I was like, 2 and 3, 5. And then I'm like, I keep getting lost. Like 1, 1, 2, 2, 3, 5.
But you don't do the 2 twice, right?
Oh.
So it's 1, 1,
Oh,
2, 3, 5,
2 and 3,
8.
5. Oh,
right? Like you just keep like adding
Oh.
them. It's hard for me to visualize. It's easier if you write it out, but
interesting.
you just
okay.
keep adding them together. I don't know why, but the Fibonacci sequence and like palindromes are like 2 things that are kind of like my Roman Empire.
Palindromes?
I think about them a lot.
Interesting.
I don't know why.
What was the other thing that you mentioned? The shell.
The Nautilus shell?
Yeah, what is that?
You don't know what a Nautilus shell is? Libby.
I do, but the listeners
Oh.
definitely don't.
I mean,
Like a seashell.
Mhm.
yeah, but it's very like swirly, like if you were to
Yeah.
look at it.
Oh, okay.
And so the whole thing about it is like if you were to plot out the Fibonacci sequence. Like it's, I kind of forget how to do it, but if you had like graph paper, it'd be like the first number is 1. And so you color in 1 box. Second number is 1. So you go over 1 and color in that box. Second number is 2. Then you go down 2 boxes, and, and you just keep doing this. And eventually it kind of like lends itself to this
spiral.
very like, it's not like a tight spiral. It's almost like a spiral that like keeps getting wider. Like
interesting. Like the universe.
Yes. If you look, no, literally galaxies, like fingers in galaxies.
Yeah.
If you look at like a nautilus shell, there's so many things that like mimic this.
That's a little spooky.
Yeah. And so I think that's kind of like back to like the whole discovery thing. Like you just see things and you realize, oh, like this kind of fits that pattern.
Yeah.
Then you have the golden ratio and it all, Mona Lisa, it all comes together.
It all comes together.
You use the golden ratio for photography.
You do?
Mm-hmm. You use it for design.
Use it for a lot of things.
You want things in like
your aspect
1/3.
ratio?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, the rule of thirds.
Yeah. That's the golden ratio is the rule of thirds. It's the same.
Did you just hear the glass shatter in my brain? Like what?
Yeah. They're all used together.
It's
wild.
a thing, Libby. Okay.
I mean, I've been like, every time I take pictures of people, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna
stand in the middle,
do the rule of thirds because I don't want you right in the middle. I want some of your, I want you on the edge kind of rule. I'll do a couple, both ways, and then in the middle too. But wow.
See, I just need my math to like disguise itself not as math.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, oh, the rule of thirds and the golden ratio. I know this, but then you're like, yes, and here, let me give you the Fibonacci sequence with the numbers, and then I'm like, and you lost me. Seashells.
Like,
Can we do it in like pasta? Because Fibonacci sounds Italian.
It does.
So like
the Fibonacci.
1 plus 1 penny is 2 pennies. And 2 and 3 pennies is 5.
And then we're like, and we're so close
and
to
then
a
we're
bowl
hungry,
of
and
pasta.
then we make pasta.
Yeah. And then
that sounds really good.
Everyone's happy again, even though there was math involved.
We're like, yay.
And
Math
like
always makes me
212 degrees Fahrenheit, but not if you're in the mountains. And just, so
it's wild.
It is wild. So
I appreciate you guys giving math a try.
Thank you.
We appreciate you coming here and teaching us the math.
Yeah. And now that you've taught us the math all in this, window of time, I think we have a very important question for you.
Yes. One final question. In a world full of Haylies and Libbies, are you more of a Haylie or more of a Libby?
Should have known this was coming. Okay, so I know you guys don't want to hear it, but I do feel like you guys are very similar. So that is very hard to like pick one.
We're a Venn diagram.
Okay, true. I understand that.
Yeah.
I do love a good architectural arch, so I do feel like I am more Team Haylie. I also feel like Haylie and I's temperaments are also like very similar.
That's true.
Like, we like what we like, and if you don't like it, that's fine. We're fine with that.
That's right.
I feel like I would be a Haylie. I really do.
I love that because you're the first one who's answered that.
No way!
Everyone's a Libby, and my feelings are hurt.
Team Haylie all the way.
Teasing. They're not.
I'm just more generic Haylie. That's really
that's true.
Yeah, I'm the great value brand Haylie, just like
at
I
least
want
give
to be
yourself
her.
The benefit of like being Kirkland, know.
If only I could be Kirkland, but instead I'm just like hanging out at the Walmart, just like somebody help me, please. I'm just almost there, but I'm not quite name brand.
Well, thank you so much for being on, teaching us the maths.
And if you enjoy math, then put 2 and 2 together and join us next time.
Nailed it.
Crushing it. Clearly, I learned a lot. So go brag to your friends about how you know the Fibonacci sequence.
Fabulous sequence.
Yeah, whatever that is. Go brag to your friends about that. Don't say whatever I said. Rewind this and listen to Kaitlyn talk about it and then repeat that to your friends. That's what I do. I just parrot things. So anyway, give us a like on the socials, Instagram, Facebook. Check us out on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. And see us next time in an awful world.
Yeah.
Okay?
Bye.
Bye.